We're live? Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. And we respectfully acknowledge that we live and work in Mi'kmaq as the steward of the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We are all treaty people. Approval of the agenda and order of business. Tom has a couple of items. One's an appreciation, one has to do with birthday, and one is room to move. Anybody else have anything they want to add? If not, a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Public input. There's no public here. You guys aren't allowed to do it. Okay. Minutes of the previous meeting. Draft council minutes, April the 9th. Errors or omissions?
Second.
Moved and seconded that they be approved. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Draft emergency council minutes, April 13th. Errors or omissions?
Motion to approve.
Seconder?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Draft council, April 16th. Errors or omissions? Moved and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Draft special council meetings, April 21st. Moved by Tom, seconded by Sharon. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Draft public hearing minutes, April 8th.
I'll move we approve them.
Seconder? Okay. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion is carried. Proclamations and designations. Lyme and Tick Disease Awareness Month proclamation. Somebody want to move we proclaim it? Moved. Seconder? Second. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion is carried.
Yeah, it's an illumination request as well, just.
Yeah, well, okay, well, I didn't see that right there, so. Okay, committee reports. Municipal Planning Advisory Commission motion.
Good morning, Council. I am here mostly to, I guess, respond to questions if there are around this motion that came from the Municipal Planning Advisory Committee from their meeting last week. Councilors Asif and Church may also wish to speak to it, but you can see the motion here is essentially recommending that Council consider prioritizing and accelerating the review of the municipal plan review that would be scheduled for 2030. This was following a discussion on a proposed development in East River, which has generated some, concerns from the community. That file is still working its way through the committee, but this was following that, and I guess based on, I don't want to speak too much for the committee. I think based on the discourse and the types of files and discussions that they've been seeing lately. So. Again, I'm trying to respond to any questions, but basically it's here for.
Well, I just want to know what it means to you to move it.
Yeah, well, it would be, it's a major piece of work for sure. I don't have anything prepared and sort of timelines. If it's something council was interested in, I think we want to maybe take that back and. If council gives it priority, we will prioritize it, but how other things.
I think what we would look for is direction on that. Right now, the focus for your department is going to be on the Hubbards and the strategy for that.
Yeah.
And doing that study and finishing the rezonings for there. That would have to be rolled in, so it would potentially slow that process down, but it would then it would encompass the larger discussion.
Right.
Of the rest of the municipality.
Well, I guess that's what I want to know is like what impact does it have on your apartment's ability to do everything else?
I think it's reprioritizing.
Yeah,
That's what it would be.
that's what it would be. So
Reprioritizing. So if council doesn't want to focus on on Hubbard's area alone and get that finished, it would significantly slow that down. Our last plan review, you know, we thought it would take a year or two, it took 10.
Oh, I know. It takes forever.
So I don't think, I think from a staff point of view, we would not want Hubbard's to take 10 years or we'll be behind the 8 ball on
No.
that one. And so we would prefer to continue to prioritize Hubbard's and not get that. Even when we did the last plan review, we did take an attempt to roll the village in as well, and then we ended up going back a year or two later and saying it was slowing it down too significantly. And we went back to doing the village plan review after the municipal plan review, so this would be a similar situation, I suspect.
Yeah.
Well, I think, it sounds like we should stay on the same track we're on, but,
Councillor Vino had his mic.
oh, sorry, Andre.
I have given 2 talks to industry professionals on this topic in the last couple months, one in Ontario and one in Truro. And it relates to development of unserviced lands. So prior to 2017, the on-site sewage regulation allowed to design septic systems for housing, but it was very restrictive. And in 2017, they changed the regulation whereby we could put many, many dwelling units on a single system, and the amount of regulatory oversight was much reduced. And at the time, I think the province didn't foresee these massive potential developments that have become actually very sort of commonplace now. Like if you took a drive, I would invite you to take a drive down, say, the Pockwalk Road in Halifax. So it's unserviced lands, and you'll see buildings like many high-story buildings in an area where, you know, you had just a few scattered houses before. And it has to do with geography and only that. It's in that commuter belt from from Halifax, and that's what's driven this huge amount of development. And I think what we're seeing a little bit here now is this, not as to the same extent as in HRM, but we're seeing the developments proposed that are on unserviced land, and normally we wouldn't see a lot of density. And it's being facilitated by this change in the regulation that happened in 2017. And I think, in speaking with the regulator at the province, they're trying to get the cows back in the barn a little bit and trying to close up the regulation because they realize that it's been too open and too, that level of oversight has been too low. But developments like the one proposed and others, they rely on this sewage management strategy that it's basically gone from heavy oversight to almost none. And now engineers can design many dwelling units on a piece of land, and as long as you can treat the sewage there, you can get a permit. And I think our land use policies sort of never envisioned that as well. So, because we were always constrained by the ability for people to get on-site sewage. I don't think a broad look at our municipal land use policy, of course, would be great, but if we wanted to split off just something like looking at a density cap of some sort as a sub-project, that might be worthwhile doing to try to restrict the magnitude of some of these developments, because I think that's what mostly gets people upset, is when we're, you know, you're proposing, you've got, say, you know, whatever, let's say 10 acres or something like that, and they have many units being proposed, and it's being facilitated through the use of this on-site sewage regulation that they can, as long as they can treat that sewage somehow, and there's an engineer that says that that's gonna work, then that sails through, and then we shrug our shoulders because the land use policy allows for it. If we could just squeeze it down, the review, just to reviewing just sort of like a density cap in certain zones, that I think that would actually address a lot of the issue for now until a broader.
Simple.
I'm just throwing that out there as an option.
Yeah, to Deputy Warden Vino's point, if we focused it on growth, like a growth management piece of the plan
Rather than
review.
the whole thing.
Rather than the whole thing where we get into all of the broad topics and looking at where are the zones appropriate and all of that, if we just looked at growth management and density in there, that would be much more focused and I think much more
And
manageable.
I think that that's what people are sort of like bothered by. You know, they don't wanna see, like, when you have housing packed in, like, the same density that you'd expect with like a mobile home or mini home park, but it's not really called that, it's called, you know, a housing development, and they're stick-built houses, but they're packed in the same kind of arrangement. I think that's what gets people stressed out. And you know, if there was some cap, like in certain areas, like, okay, we'll allow whatever, 10 units per acre, or whatever we decide is the amount that's appropriate for those zones, I think that would be way better.
Well, why can't we just, no, I don't know why we can't just, if we want to just focus on that particular aspect of it,
Yep.
that doesn't sound, well, I mean.
No, that would, I mean, that would definitely narrow the scope signidigantly.
Yeah,
I
and
think-
wouldn't slow up the Hubbard's.
Right, right. And I
piece.
think in fairness and to Tara's comments earlier, like, we are essentially doing this for the Hubbard's area right now.
Yeah, so it's
And-
almost the same thing, yeah.
Right, in a sense,
Yeah.
and so
You
this,
just apply
this
it
would,
broader.
and this would apply more broadly to Councilor Vino's point, to attempt to sort of lessen the concerns that we're hearing right now in the interim. So I'm more than happy to take that away as a file that we'll bring back some reports on.
Okay, is that,
Yep.
we all comfortable with that? Okay,
Thank you.
and that's the approach we'll take.
Yeah, I think that's because
Oh, sorry.
Nicholas sits on the committee. Nicholas is a smart guy. And I'm glad he brought this forward. Because I really wasn't thinking about it, to be honest with you, other than this project. I'd just like to ask Andre, so Andre, you're in that field, so do you think that the province obviously made it easier because there's a housing issue? That was probably it was at their focus, we'll make it easier to build houses. And just the component of wastewater was part of it. So do you think, how are they gonna rein that in? Do you have any ideas?
So, when the changes were envisioned in 2015 and 16 by the province to the on-site sewage regulations, they went from what they called their technical guidelines to a brand-new standard that they released in late 2016. And it basically, prior to that, prior to late 2016, everything with sewage, especially with multiple dwelling units, had to go through the department as what they call an approval. So the department engineer would actually review every single file. It was very time consuming. And I think the industry recognized that that was an onerous process and they didn't want that. So it was to try to facilitate development. They went to what they called a notification system, where if you sort of complied with the standard, you could just send in your design work, and you know, aside from some that they pulled out for like an audit, it would just kind of come back with a sort of so-called approval or whatever, a notification receipt. And engineers on these big systems, instead of having that scrutiny from the regulator, basically you say, okay, yeah, everything complies with the standard, I have the setbacks I need or whatever, and you could be treating one house or 100 houses, and if you check that box, the permit goes in and it comes back out. And so it went from like a ton of regulatory oversight on very small systems to sometimes really huge developments with almost no oversight. And there's a wide variety of people with a wide variety of skill level in this industry, so sometimes you can get in trouble. And the other thing is, because prior to this new development, like, we had really rarefied development. There was like, it was very scattered. And then these densification of these projects, it puts in jeopardy things that we never thought before. So, like, for example, our standard is silent on nitrogen. So nitrogen poisoning of groundwater supplies is a real issue, but it becomes an issue when you have a lot of density, which we didn't have prior to this change. But now we have these mega developments coming in, and the standard, because it was backwards looking to the way we always did it, it is silent on that. So you can comply with the standard, but you actually put, in some cases, water supplies at risk, and they're scrambling now. The province is trying to put more regulation in place to try to deal with that, because like nitrogen poisoning, for example, of water supplies is a huge issue. And like if you're in Ontario, that's one of the things you have to do, and other jurisdictions. We don't even look at it here, because we didn't have this kind of density prior to 2017. So it's a,
Unintended
yeah, I think that they didn't anticipate this, because prior to 2020 or so, when the pandemic, it took 40 years for the province to grow 100,000 people. And then we grew 100,000 people in 2 years. And that's when this happened. But when the change happened, we didn't know about the pandemic. We didn't know this was gonna happen. So like, I think that this is just a happenstance.
Okay, you all right?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
thanks, thank you.
Okay, good enough. Okay, Recreation Parks Committee motion. I don't seem to have it in my,
Yeah, I think,
That's-
Chad, do you have the motions? I think the wrong document got uploaded. We doubled up on the MPAC motion.
well, I think a woman called me something about giving some young fella
Yes.
$500 or something.
Yeah, I can read the motion.
Yeah, read the motion, yeah.
So the recommendation from the Recreation Committee
Yeah.
was the motion was moved by Amy Chrysler, seconded by Leslie Taylor.
Oh,
The rate-
Your mic isn't on,
Oh, sorry.
so you're not being recorded.
Good morning. So the motion is as follows, moved by Amy Chrysler, seconded by Leslie Taylor, that the Recreation Committee recommend to council that we give Harrison Jolly Moore of Windsor Road $500 for his participation in the Soccer Umbro Showcase in Mississauga, Ontario from May 15th to 18th. Motion carried. So Harrison was selected as part of the U14 provincial soccer team, so he made that team and is headed to Ontario to a competition, and so that's the basis of the application and hence the
Somebody
recommendation.
prepared to move it?
I'll move that.
Seconded by a couple over there. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Public input, there's none that I'm aware of. So we're on to 9.1, second and final reading of replacement bylaw, tax exemption for charitable organizations, municipal water utilities, licensed daycare bylaw. So, do we need anything, or is somebody prepared to make that motion?
I'll move that we approve the motion.
Seconder? Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. Similarly, second and final notice, video surveillance policy.
Second. Everybody count.
Moved and seconded, discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion is carried. Okay, so I'm on to 10.1, Buildings and Unsightly Premises Committee, Department of Community Development, draft amendments.
Guess I should have just stayed up here.
Again, I think we asked for these.
Yeah, so, council members, back in December, there was a review of, several of, the committees of council, and one of the ones that was discussed, was the, Building Unsightly Premises Committee. And so at that December 4th meeting, council, suggested that, or indicated a preference to make changes that would give authority over the unsightly to the administrator, so similar to what we do for the dangerous portion of that as well. And then to essentially remove that committee structure. So we've gone away to look at making that change, and so of course in order to do that, we require some changes be made to the existing policy P80. So I've included copies of the original policy as well as the draft policy with the changes. So in the existing policy, council delegates its authority to declare a property as unsightly to the committee. And so the committee is the one that declares the property as unsightly. That's the kind of the current structure, and so we'd be looking to change that. And then as well, currently council delegates its authority to the administrator to declare a property as dangerous. So right now the staff look after that portion of it. And as well to bring into compliance a property which has been declared dangerous and unsightly. So staff are the ones that work with the property owners to bring those properties into compliance as it stands today. And of course, council also retains its authority for ordering demolitions and to conduct appeal hearings. So that's in the policy as it is. So in order to, the changes that we're suggesting that need to be made, in policy statement number 1, it talks about giving council's authority to declare a property as unsightly to the administrator. And so that would be the first change, and then statements 6, 7, and 8 are all related to that committee structure, and of course that would not be required anymore, so we would remove those statements. And there's a few other pieces in there related to appeal, so we need to make sure that there's a mechanism in there for folks to appeal decisions. So without that kind of committee structure and in addition to what was in there previously. And as well, the ability to overturn a decision that the administrator makes. So that was kind of in the Municipal Government Act already, but just making sure that that council is aware that if council wants to change a decision that's made by staff, there is the ability to do that. You just have to make sure you have a good rationale for doing that, and that reason is stated and recorded in the minutes of the meeting. One other piece that I thought was important is if we don't have a committee, I think that was our connection with councillors and council, and so there needs to be a way to make sure we keep everybody up to date with what's happening with those files. And so we can kind of talk through that a little bit, but I thought, at least a couple of times a year there would be some type of whether it's just a report that gets sent out or as part of a council agenda, just to bring staff, bring council up to date with the files, like the number of files, kind of what they are, where they are. I know councilors are interested if any of those are in their districts and that type of thing. So so we'd set it up in such a way that we'd bring that information forward to council.
Aware of what's going on.
Exactly, yeah. We know that, councilors can reach out if there's specific concerns like you do currently, but that would be just a way to,
hear
keep
about them all.
Yep, keep that communication open.
Oh, are we comfortable with those changes?
So there was one item that, we had some, sorry, Sharon, go ahead.
Sharon?
Well, just a comment, is there? Sorry?
Tara didn't.
Okay, thank you. Just wondering if we can put it in, and I don't know, maybe legally we couldn't, any timeline for people to get these places cleaned up? I think we've seen properties that have been, to me, look like they're on the unsightly list for 10, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's only a little bit of activity, so they just keep, they said, oh, we're improving, but they're definitely unsightly. And I'm just wondering, does this go on forever? Because I think we know some examples, I'm not gonna mention any, but we've all seen them in areas that they're clearly unsightly or unsafe, but they just keep on going.
Yeah, and so I think the members of the committee can speak to all these issues that we deal with. We definitely have the ability to issue orders and to require properties to be cleaned up. Some of the properties that have been unsightly for a longer period of time are significant in size and scope and would require significant investment by somebody, the property owner, ideally, to bring them into compliance. And so that is very challenging to make that happen. And and a lot of times, again, as the committee knows, as these cases are not clear cut and straightforward, and there's lots of variables that go with them, including the financial situation of the property owner. A lot of times there are mental health and health issues that go along with it, and the list goes on and on about reasons and background for why some of the properties continue to be in an unsightly condition. So they're very, very challenging, and so We, like a lot of the work that we do, we take an education approach and initially, and we try to work with property owners as much as we can to a point, and then at some point in time, if there is no response or lack of response or minimal progress, then sometimes we progress to orders, and then those orders, the property owners need to follow through. And yeah, we absolutely could come down with a more heavy hand. And I think that if that was the case with some of these larger properties, council would need to be prepared for significant resources and costs to go into those, both in terms of legal support and as well, if we end up, because we do have the ability, and Sam can comment on this, we do have the ability to go in and clean up properties if people do not follow through with orders, but then the municipality takes on those costs, and of course, we try to recover them through the properties, and that is, that comes with challenges as well. So none of these, there's very few of these files that are straightforward and easy, and they're very complex. And so there is room to do more and to take a stronger hand and firmer action and get try and get some more progress. But their council needs to be
Who's up
prepared
next?
for that.
Andre was up next, okay. And then Clarissa.
So this would change the nature of how we administer this work, I guess. Instead of going through sort of a more political process, it's gonna basically just enshrine it in policy, and then the staff can carry on. Now, the root of this discussion was, how do we actually make this more effective? An example I cited when we spoke of it last was, a property on the 329 that is a third of an acre and it's covered with 50 or 60 cars, that probably I would say probably 99% of them haven't moved in many years now. And like, how does this change help us to deal with that situation, for example?
Good question. So some of these files, I don't know that this change is going to necessarily help with that, because we still have we're still using the Municipal Government Act and the definition there. I think what this does is it potentially could help speed up some of our files. So for example, if we have a complaint that comes in right now, our staff go out, they do a preliminary site visit and investigation, and then that has to come back to committee. So we wait till the next monthly committee meeting. The committee
Speeds up
decides
their
if it's unsightly or not, and then that decision is made and we get direction, and then staff then proceed and follow up. So it would from an efficiency perspective, it would help with the timing of that. It doesn't necessarily, I don't think it's gonna necessarily make a significant difference. So for example, again, I don't wanna use any specific cases, but if there was a case that has been before the committee before, and we've kind of gone through steps, oftentimes getting legal advice on what we can and cannot do on those properties and what we can require and not. So some of them, it will be a challenge, and it's not necessarily gonna be just a light switch that's gonna change and all of a sudden all these properties are gonna be cleaned up. That is not what is gonna happen through this change. I think some of the timing may be able to be improved, but we will continue to deal with these challenging files.
Sam, you had some?
Yeah, well, Chad has done a very good job of summing it up. The legal tools are there. It's a question of, on an individual basis, are we prepared to devote the resources and the money to do it? And because if you get a situation where somebody's just not doing it for whatever the reason might be, then we have to decide, do we go in and do it ourselves? Do we charge them? Do we make a court application? So those are the hard decisions, and I suspect that even under this new system, staff is gonna be coming back to council. They're gonna say, we got an order out there, and when this person didn't do it, our next step is whatever, and it's gonna cost money, and we could be challenged legally and blah, 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 blah. And then there's gonna be a decision had to be made. Are we prepared to do it or not?
Yeah, and one of the things that we face is that in a lot of these situations where as staff or other members of the community, we look at a property and we see little to no value in some of the things that we're seeing. The property owner does not have that same opinion, that these are their belongings. They have extreme value, whether that's they plan to, sell items or recycle items or, trade in, a lot of people, collect steel and they they hold it until they believe that the price of steel is at a good rate that they can get the most money. And so they will hold it for years at a time until they believe they're gonna get a good price back. So there's all those kind of factors built in, as kind of Sam alluded to, that make those very challenging. So if the municipality is gonna go in and clean those items up, those property owners obviously become very defensive and believe that the municipality is removing items from their property that they see as valuable that we may not. And so then we're in legal situations, and then we're most likely we'll end up in court. And so I think that is, the kind of the background of why some of these long outstanding files that a lot of you are familiar with in your communities haven't been completely cleaned up. And then we also have files that we go in, staff do an excellent job, we get a property cleaned up, and we
2 months later-
close the file. A few months later, the cycle continues again, and we're back on the same property. And so we do have those properties that are on that cycle, and they're on the list. We work with them, they clean up, they're off the list. A couple
2 months
years later,
later,
they're
they're
back on the list again.
Abdallah?
So those are all elements that add to this situation. So.
Della?
Thank you. I just, to Sam's point, and I know you can define dangerous and unsightly, not so much unsightly, but dangerous, and not mentioning any particular address. But in my district, there's actually a property that's not only, there's a lot of issues there, and our enforcement officer doesn't feel safe going there. He's having major issues with it, and in this particular case, I would feel it would be appropriate to take that kind of action. I mean, because this is not only dangerous to the people that are living there, it's dangerous to the whole community. And I just see that as you gotta look at it by case basis, how you do an order. I mean, it's different if someone has a bunch of garbage bags laying around, but if you have a site that is just, and you know that it's dangerous to the public safety of the community, I think we be derelict in our duty not to pursue it.
Yeah.
Especially if it's known in the community
Right.
that this is going on.
Yeah, so just a couple of quick responses to that. One, if it's something dangerous like a well, easy. We go in there and it needs to be dealt with
Cover it up.
immediately, and if the property owner doesn't do it immediately, we will go and do that immediately. So like an open well is very serious. If there's other things, and I'm not gonna comment on any specific properties, but there are properties where the danger element, we actually refer to the RCMP, and so the RCMP take over those files, and I'll just kind of leave it at that, but we do have a working relationship with the RCMP, and so some of those actually end up being a little bit outside of our jurisdiction. We need to allow the RCMP to do their work, kind of in combination with ourselves, and so there are some properties that if we discover that they are not safe or we don't feel it's safe for our staff to be there, we will not send them there, and we will refer those cases to the RCMP. So again, it just speaks to the complexity of some of these files, that there's a lot of elements and pieces to consider. So.
Andre?
Yeah, I think part of what brought this again to the forefront again is this. I recognize that it's difficult, and that oftentimes you're dealing with folks that, I don't know if it's mental health or what it is, but, they have their 50 cars in their third of an acre lot, and in their mind that those old junk cars or whatever, someday they're gonna fix them up, or what it is, I don't even know, but to them, they hold value. But I think part of the frustration we have here is that we have been very lenient. And I think that, at least my feeling, and I think it's shared, is that I think there's a willingness here to take action. Yeah, sure, some of them may challenge and whatever, they'll petition the courts to say this is a these old cars are valuable and whatever, and then they can make those proofs or whatever, but, I think by and large, like the folks that are our shareholders, the taxpayers, they want us to police this. They're unhappy with this situation, and it goes on for many decades, lifetimes, and we do nothing, and it ruins the quality of life for everyone around them, and I think people are sick of it, and, you know, if it costs us some money, I think that most in our districts would be okay with us spending that money. You know, we'll spend money on flower baskets or gardening or beautification programs and stuff like that, and we're unwilling to do sort of the obvious things, is clean up garbage on, you know, and it's just, I think people are tired of it, and I welcome this change because it streamlines the process in terms of how quick we can identify an issue and then go to site and get a report and then take actions. But, you know, the message I guess I'm trying to send here is, like, I think that the actions we take, we have, whatever we're allowed to do under the MGA, I feel like we should start to exercise that a little more rigorously. I think it's easy to just keep saying, oh, well, you know, we'll give them a chance, we'll keep going and going, and then it goes for years and years and years. And nothing ever gets done, and before you know it, you know, decades have passed, and it's a fixture in the community, and you don't even know where to begin because it's always been there. And we gotta stop that, and it doesn't seem to be any recourse for people turning their site into a dumping ground.
Okay. Are we prepared to approve the draft amendments to policy P80?
Councillor Colin.
Oh, sorry, Councilor Gould.
Thank you. I agree, a more assertive approach. This will not be a surprise for anyone who's been on the list more than a year. If there's a more assertive action taken, that they're not gonna say, I didn't see this coming, I wasn't aware this is gonna happen. So, I mean, at some point, there has to be some accountability on their end. So I'm for a more assertive approach, thank you.
So a motion to approve the amendments?
So moved.
Seconder? Second. Discussion?
Discussion.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't think there's any issue with the amendment. The amendment's good. This is what's before council, but this is our chance to talk about it. We don't talk about it much. How do we sort of bake into this policy so that staff will, or somehow give direction to be more, put a little more teeth behind what our rules are? Like, how do we bake that into this? Because I think that we were being too lenient in the past, and I think that's an ongoing issue. So this is our chance to talk about it. We're talking about it now. I realize there's a motion on the floor
Yeah.
specific to this.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm asking, because that's what drove this conversation in the first place, and this is great. Okay, now we're faster, but faster at doing nothing doesn't help us at all. Faster at talking a whole bunch and not getting anything done
If we
does nothing.
approve this motion, we gotta stick to this motion sort of at the moment. Then we could ask staff to come back with a report on how we could take action in a quicker fashion.
All right, fine, yeah, because that's what drove us, and I don't see anything in this motion here that is actually gonna fix anything unless we actually,
Just speeds it up somewhat.
it speeds up doing nothing.
That is correct. So this change will remove the committee, so that will help you in your goal of reducing the number of committees that council has, and it will provide some efficiency. So I think that will probably help with a lot of new cases or some of the ongoing cases, but you're 100% correct. Like if you want some action related to some of those long-standing files, that's not done through this. That needs to be further, and I would love to have a more detailed conversation and get some further very specific direction from council on exactly what you're wanting to see. And so we can bring a report back if you want to talk about.
On possible options.
Yeah, and like we can provide a list of some of the known files or the open files that we
Yeah.
have on some of these properties, and we can get some specific direction from council.
Yeah, okay,
on
so
what that looks
further
like.
discussion on the motion itself.
Oh, on the motion, no.
Yeah. Somebody, did we have a mover and a second? Yeah. All those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried. So, okay, Abdallah,
Yeah,
I'm
and
gonna
that
ask for
was
staff to
what,
bring a
actually
report.
what I was gonna ask Chad. is it, I don't know how we do it, Sam would know, but is there any way to give the bylaw officer a little more teeth or power?
So our authority comes through the Municipal Government Act and through this policy. And so we have tools at our disposal to take action on properties and that. And so essentially, just so you know the process, so if a complaint comes in, so our bylaw is based on complaints. A complaint comes in, we respond, we do a preliminary investigation. Previously, that file, if it was unsightly, that file would go to the committee. The committee would determine if it's unsightly or not, if they believe it is. If it's not, the file would close. If it was considered to be unsightly, then staff would take appropriate action to work with the property owner to get it cleaned up. So that starts with conversations, that starts with some letters, and then it progresses from there. If the property continues to get worse and there's no action, then we have the ability to come back to the committee, and the committee would make a recommendation to place an order on the property. And that order, they can decide whatever they want in that order. It could be, if it's important, it could be 7 days. If it could be 30 days, it could be 60 days, it could be, whatever the committee chose. And so at this point in time with this change, that would now have staff taking on that process and issuing those orders. So I think the opportunity is there to issue orders, and then it's the follow-up. So if we issue an order, let's say it's an issue of 30 days to clean up a property, if at the end of that 30 days, the property owner takes no action and they choose not to do anything, the question then is, what is staff doing as a follow-up at that point in time? And so I think that's, some of what we're getting at here. Some of that we've been lenient, and if a property owner shows some progress, we've tended to say, okay, you're doing
At least you're
well.
working it.
We will give you additional time or what have you to follow through and do that cleanup. That is where we could come down much heavier handed and demand that it be cleaned up. And if not, then the municipality has the ability to go into that property and we can do the cleanup. And
I
then
guess-
bill it back to the property owner. And so that's the piece that I think we need a little bit more clarity on and discussion on, because those pieces that's what we haven't been willing to do, is to go in and spend $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to go in and clean up a property, remove people's personal items from their property, take it to the landfill or wherever it's going. And so that's hard to do.
Well, that's
So
the
we
report we want you to come back with, what our options
That's
are.
the piece what we need some clarification.
I guess
on.
my question would be, and maybe you can't do it because of the MGA, but I guess what I was getting at is if our bylaw officer goes out, gets a complaint, and it's pretty much cut and dry. He would know by looking at that it's unsightly or whatever. So I guess I want to speed that process up. He just can't come to that decision alone. It has to come to council.
No,
No.
we can do that. Before, it used to have to go to the committee, and the
Well, that's what
committee
I'm
would
saying.
decide.
Now
But
it doesn't have to
It just,
anymore.
you can just do it, okay, just so
after
I'm
this is
clear.
done, then staff have the ability
Yeah,
to make that
because,
determination.
I feel bad for him. I really do. He's got a tough job,
It
and
Oh, it's
is.
miserable.
he gets in some situations
Yep.
where it's not very good, I can tell you.
And some people, some people are very pleasant to deal with, and
I
others
know.
are
I
not.
spoke to him. Yeah, that's
Okay,
great. Thank you.
Sam has the floor.
Yeah, just to add on to that, this is gonna speed it up, but if it comes to the point where you're gonna have to spend significant money.
He has to come back
It's gonna
here.
come back here.
Yeah.
And the other,
yeah.
so ultimately it'll be council decision as to whether you wanna go there, so it's gonna be a dicey thing, because if the bylaw officer gives an order, you have to be prepared to support it.
Yeah.
And if there's a case where there might be arguably items of value, the recommendation might be we get a court order.
Yeah.
There's two ways you can go. We can just issue an order and then act on it. And that's fine if it's just garbage or stuff like that. But you get into a situation where people are saying these things are of value, blah, 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 then for legal protection, we may say, ooh, we better get a court order to do this. And that way we get a judge agreeing with us, and the judge issues the order. So,
It's all complicated.
it's all complicated.
Tina?
Thank you. So, being a member of the committee for a good number of years, I think some of this overlaps with our plan review, because when we have general basic zones, and one example that was cited this morning the individual actually, not the dangerous for other reasons, example, but the individual actually came in and spoke to our committee. And again, general basic zone, no matter the size of the acreage, general basic zone, when you look it up, allows certain activities. And so that kind of, so
Plays into
I can't wait for the municipal plan review when we go out to these communities and we sharpen the pencil on general basic zone. If we thought they were a little upset over farm animals, you try telling people what they can't do with repairing vehicles and working on their equipment. We have a lot of agricultural individuals and a lot of forestry individuals. You know, you go by my house, you're gonna see a number of pieces of gear that are being worked on. So when those individuals, they've come to our committee and they've spoken and said that those are vehicles that they are using in their regular activities in terms of securing parts and so on. So general basic zone, again, so, yeah, so I may not be on council when this happens, right? But, you know, if we're pushing it out and so on, but I'll be in the room. Thanks.
Okay, so you can come back and give us some information on where we are, what the possible options are. Okay, okay. Okay, so 10.2, new planning advisory committee terms of reference. I'm only gonna hope that's important.
All right, so I am back this morning with a sort of a package of items in a follow-up to our discussions around merging our existing two planning advisory committees and our heritage committee into a single, hopefully more active committee. So there's a brief staff report here, but the meat of the discussion, I think, is really around the policies themselves. So attached, the first item is a new policy, which will be numbered as we go through the process here. And that essentially outlines the scope and mandate for what will be our new single planning advisory committee. So the bulk of what's in here was pulled from our, you know, mostly from our existing planning advisory policies, except with some of the changes that we discussed here around the two council members, council member as a chair, and generally looking for district representation, but still having the ability to do some specific selection if the context warranted. So that is attached, and happy to answer any questions about that, but generally it's, you know, the mandate is essentially the same, so all planning files, whether they be amendments, development agreements, et cetera, for the entire municipality would go, as well as any heritage requests to register new properties or substantially alter existing registered properties would all be business for that committee. And similar to the item we saw this morning from MPAC, the committee does have the ability to request that council dedicate resources to particular items of study. So that's remained. In terms of the other attachments here, so just in order to facilitate all of these changes, we have a revised heritage property bylaw. As well, the Heritage Property Bylaw used to outline the terms for the Heritage Advisory Committee, but now it essentially points to the policy that would outline the Planning Advisory Committee. However, we do need to maintain the Heritage Property Bylaw because that outlines our municipal heritage property registry and the process and forms for registering new heritage properties in the future. And then the final two items that are attached would be a request to repeal the existing two policies, P63 and P39, and those are the two policies that outline the existing planning advisory committees. So if council was satisfied, we would be looking for a notice of intent to adopt the new planning advisory committee policy, first reading on the revisions to the heritage property bylaw, and then repeals of the two existing planning advisory committees.
Are somebody prepared to move that? So moved. We have a seconder. Second. Discussion. Tom?
Thank you, Warden Weber. Speaking from the Village Planning Group, as I noted before in our discussions, the thought there was that they felt their committee should remain, and they voted for that. However, sitting at this table, I see what is happening internally for us as committees also. But in sticking with their wishes, I will just vote against this from the fact of, however, I'll stop there for a second. There has been an agreement that if there's a village planning review coming up, there could be a committee struck
can
from the
deal with that
village,
separately.
which is a very important aspect to me that I can share with them and say, you know, we still have an input and still do that. And I realize that if we set precedent for one, we set it for 7 or 8 different hamlets, which is not what we're looking for. We're looking for consolidation to drop this. So thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Oh, sorry, Andre.
Just for the benefit of the, those that may be watching at home, the Village of Chester, I think, has about 800 connections on our sewer plant. And we're proposing 600 connections in Chester Basin. We're going to be discussing, you know, engineering for a new wastewater facility in Hubbards that will increase the capacity of that. You know, the idea of having dedicated committees for every little hamlet node in our municipality, it's untenable. So I think this is the right time to consolidate all our committees and try to come up with one homogeneous strategy for all. And this is the right time. I'm really happy about this change.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried.
If I can just keep your attention for one final little item that's related to this. So this is great, we've got the direction, we'll bring back the items for second notice and second reading. So currently, when I advise our current members that, you know, we don't have a planning advisory committee that's formed and ready to meet as of today, because we're gonna have to do second reading and then work with the clerk to advertise and staff up the new committee. So we'll certainly do that as quickly as possible, but I think it's fair to say, you know, probably 6 to 8 weeks at a minimum before we're ready to go. And that committee will need an orientation meeting before they go. So we just wanted to bring
It's gonna take a while, yeah.
the topic to council for discussion. In the interim, where we don't have a committee, if there are any files that would go to PAC, would council like those to come directly to council to avoid delay, or should we hold them to wait?
Oh, bring them, if you think that I'd bring them to us.
Bring them forward to keep things moving. Yep, okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Where am I? Oh, before we start that, maybe we should take a 5-minute break or a 10-minute break. Yeah. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. And it's a request for a decision on budget approval. And it's got a lot here. I just want to know before we start just how much detail people want to go through.
So I would say I've included all the detailed budget documents. I do not intend to go through those. We have spent three
A lot
different
of time
meetings
on
going
it
through all
already.
this. So if there are any particular questions or conversations the council still want to have, I would expect someone to raise those issues. Otherwise, I'll present a
We're looking
recommended
for-
motion, some background, and we can go from there.
Okay, do that.
Okay, so today I brought you a request for decision. This is a recommended motion to approve the 3 budget documents that are attached and to adopt them as the authoritative source of the budget for the 26-27 fiscal year. So council would approve those 3 budgets, or those documents as the official budget, which would include in first year capital expenditures of $65,726,807. Operating expenditures of $35,496,931, and net transfers from operating fund to reserves of $3,560,208. This would also set the tax rates for the current fiscal year at, the residential and resource property tax rate would stay flat at 68.5 cents per $100 of taxable assessed value. The commercial property tax rate would also remain flat at $1.50 per $100 of assessed value. The universal sewer rate would be $750.82 per EDU. The streetlight area rates would be as they're reflected on page 4 of that operating budget. Those are all remaining flat from the previous year. As there are some changes going on, we've had discussions in the past about approaching it for a universal streetlight rate. And until we've done that work, we don't think it makes sense to change those rates now when we're just gonna look at changing them again later potentially. As well as keeping the Mill Cove fire protection rate at 28 cents. And that would be the rates. And this is all the culmination of discussions on April 9th, 16th, and 21st. The details or the summary of those conversations is included on page 2 of the RFD. And yeah, unless there are any particular questions or comments,
A motion to approve the budget is presented. Andre?
Well, the only thing that I was reviewing these in detail, of course, in preparation for today's meeting. And I just wanted to talk briefly about the Hubbard in the capital budget. We have allocated monies to do engineering work for future wastewater treatment system in Hubbards. And right now, the plan as it's set forth, we have the $30,000 in capital investment in the engineering taking place in 28, 29. It's quite a ways out. And I was just wondering, why are we pushed that so far out when we have, like, to me, that's sort of somewhat urgent. I wouldn't say, maybe urgent isn't the right word, but I think it's timely that we should be looking at that sooner. And I was surprised to see it so far away. And we have other projects on our wastewater plan that were a little closer, and I thought those, if anything, we could have pushed those out. So just a quick discussion, if it's okay.
Yeah, I don't know
With the
the answer
indulgence
why.
I can try to take some of that, and then if Fred or Tim want to jump in. Right now, some of that wastewater work and deciding, what are we planning for, what kind of growth scenario are we planning for there, and the density hinges on the work that we're doing on the growth strategy and the revisioning and the zoning there. So we don't anticipate that any of that work will be done until at least the end of this current fiscal year. And so as a 5-year capital, it is possible that if we're in a position come this time next budget year, that could be moved forward, but we don't anticipate, if we have that work done, but we don't anticipate that would happen until at least the end of this fiscal year, that we would be in a position to do some of that engineering, to know what we're planning for there. Is it for 1,000 connections? Is it for 2,000 connections? Is it for 600 connections? Until we have a better sense of where we land with the growth strategy work, we won't have that answer.
Does that help, Andre?
Yeah, as long as next year, we all will of course remember our discussions today, and especially Tina, and then we'll remember that, you know, if we're in a position, we can bring that forward, because I think it's gonna be super crucial that we get that underway, and I'd love to see it well underway before the end of this council mandate.
Yeah. Well, it's depending on that work, and it maybe make it pushed forward, yeah. Tina?
Thank you. Yeah, so just to continue on that topic, in terms of years that we've identified for particular work. Oh, thank you, Emily, for drawing up the, pulling up the New Ross example as well, or project, not example. I could certainly say the same in terms of the system in New Ross being pushed out, knowing that, you know, we've talked here for 12 years, I think, the systems and the order of, if you will, happening at the same time, if you know, also a couple at the same time. Also thrown in there, variables that, you know, like the growth in Hubbards and all of that, that's not a variable, but I think that we, you know, depending on where we are with developments in New Ross and discussions that may involve the province in terms of investment, and certainly with the existing system that we have with the New Ross School, and those aren't new discussions. So I could say the same. I guess I'm just making sure that I keep the discussion current and still noted in the minutes as well, and here at the table and on live stream, that you know, I look as well in terms of the soft costs being pushed out to 27, 28 for New Ross system as well, and we've certainly not, we've talked more immediate than that over the years. So I just wanted to keep that on the list, and certainly
Oh, things can change.
yeah, that's right, that's right. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, somebody prepared to move that we approve the budget as presented? Seconder? Seconded by Sharon. Discussion? Yeah?
Thank you, Warden Weber. It's on my mind, so I might as well share it. You get lots of people that say we are not responsible for how we look at things. I think this is a proof that we are very responsible. This is the fourth year, correct me if I'm wrong, that we have not increased the taxes.
Yep.
That's not going to hold forever. That's got to change. We look at everything that's going on around us. If anybody can tell me what's costing less, please inform me, besides maybe a few store groceries, which aren't really. But at the same time, the reality is we have a growth strategy plan that talks about where we want to go, where we need to go if we're going to stay, unless we're going to become a very, very outdated municipality and community hamlets, which I don't think is what we want. And the fact that it is proven that flexibility is needed according to where in the municipality something is being proposed or has an opportunity to make us stronger, bring things, there are steps. I mean, when we look at what we're doing with the potential for researching a recreation facility, which has made some people very aware that change will be coming in our municipality, taxes have to be realistically looked at in the future. I am going to support this, but at the same time, I want people to know this can't be held for more years. It's not going to work that way. So, thank you.
Any further, Andre?
And I'll build on Councillor Bremner's comments. We had a lengthy discussion about finding other sources of revenue other than relying on the tax rate. And we are fortunate to have a landfill that we own and operate within our borders. A lot of the discussion had to do with how we could grow the capabilities of that landfill to make it like a larger portion of our revenue into the future. and I'm not sure, because sometimes we can approve these budgets, and we all give ourselves a pat on the back and walk away and think no more about it until 11 months from now, when we start thinking about it again. How can we build on this, now that it's fresh in our mind? How can we build on this with staff to have more discussion about a strategy for our landfill? I realize that there is a basic strategy, but I don't, in my time here, we've never really talked about it really.
We've agreed to have
We've
a
agreed to
discussion.
come and do that, and I can assure you that while council may go away and not think about it, it's on our minds all the time and every day. And that work, there is work that has been done and continues to be done. So we can bring that forward for discussion. It was discussed at the last 2 meetings, and so we will bring
Yeah,
that
we've
forward.
asked for the staff.
And with respect, I mean, I think that we need to really look at it maybe a bit differently than we have in the past, and also with respect. I mean, governments are not known for their business prowess, typically. But, you know, I think we can do more than we've been doing, and, you know, coming in with quarterly updates, you know, and talking about the business and what the opportunities are and where we could go. That would be exciting discussions, I think, that this council would be ready to entertain, you know, so hopefully in the next months, we're gonna start to hear a bit more about the landfill, since it's gonna become a more and more important part of our budget.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Okay, so now we are, where?
Correspondence.
Oh, yeah, email from Ray Cambria, rebudget, and I think you've all heard that, and we just passed it. And an email from Daniel Desjardins, Policing Services recipient update.
Yep, just for information for
Yeah,
council.
that's it. Yep. Okay. Council calendar for May and June. Well, that's what it is today.
Yeah.
We'll see what it is come then.
So this is what's already been approved. We looked at it last week. I don't think we need to suggest any changes right now, but we wanted council to have the opportunity to discuss it and see if you wanted to make any changes. Councillor Connors has her.
Go Councillor Connors, yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, no, so not, having a crystal ball in front of me, I'm not positive that I'm going to make May 7th, simply because I have some stuff happening a week and a day before that. So I may not be here on the 7th. So and I know that we always do this, we're respective of the counselors that are on vacation or have another commitment or a medical appointment in terms of the agenda items. So I know that through the budget process, we talked a couple things that may come forward on the May 7th council meeting, but I would just mention that now, a couple of weeks in advance, just because of that. So sorry about that, but, with some things happening with me next Wednesday, may not be here on the 7th. Hopefully I am.
Yeah.
And there's also the option of doing a couple meetings, zooming in, so you may not want to see that, but no, go, okay, bye for now.
And I
That's it.
think, just for council's information, I think the 7th is a fairly light agenda, if I recall right now. So if we do need to make a change, we could send out an email closer to that date once we have it firmed up in terms of what's on that agenda. It may be that we look at the 14th. I know Councillor Coolin, I don't think is here that week. But we could look at the 14th or the 21st. Maybe we change the 21st and flip it around. Anyways,
We'll see what happens.
We'll look at it, but this is what it is for now. But we always sort of look at what's on the agenda. It's fairly late for the 7th right now.
Okay, so we're on to 12.2. Department update, Department of Solid Waste is basically information, but
Yeah, unless you have questions.
unless we have a question, it's just where we are. We don't have any? No? Thank you. You received your report?
Thanks, Scott.
Okay, Tom, think I'm on to you and the appreciation, the birthday, and the room to move.
Thank you very much, Warden Weber. As council all knows, it's a National Volunteer Week. I want to take a moment to thank all those volunteers, because there's many of them, for all the things they do, and we're always looking for more volunteers in most communities, so I'm inviting anyone that's thinking about joining something or has moved into the area. There's lots of opportunity. We are a municipality, as well as all the others, that thrives on our strength of our volunteers, and I know I can speak for all of you. We appreciate what you do, and we want to be there to do what we can do, and I think our generosity in donations and contributions and others is a proof of that. So again, thank you to the many
Yeah,
volunteers.
I think it's worth acknowledging that our staff have been extremely busy putting on events and
Oh, yes,
trying to
yes, and thank
honor
you,
all these
staff, for
people.
that.
And we thank them very much for
Thank
all
you,
the effort they
CAO.
put into that.
My apologies for forgetting that, but that is true. There's been lots of, this week particularly, there's been many events, and I know counselors have been, and others have been running off their feet to go to different things, and it's well appreciated, I'm sure. Second thing is, on Sunday, I get the honor on your behalf to present another certificate, which Deputy Warden Vino did early in the year, to a gentleman that's turning 100 years old.
Yep.
That's 2 in 1 year, and that's unusual in many communities, but we're very lucky, and so.
Hope you get to give one to me someday.
Well, if you hang around for a number of more years, and again, that gentleman is Mr. Stuart Carver, and I hear he's an avid pool player still in
Yep.
his elderly years, and that
Get to
he's.
play with them at the Chester League.
There you go. So we won't tell any of those stories, but again, I know on behalf of council, I'll have the honor to present him a certificate in recognition of that, so I appreciate that opportunity. The third thing is, as many people are or aren't aware, the municipality is looking at ways to research and look into a new rec facility opportunity for our municipality. Tonight, we're at Forest Heights at 7 o'clock for the public to come. Just put your input in. There is no answers for anything. I get lots of calls saying, well, where is it? How much it's going to cost? None of that has been decided. This is an opportunity, first stage, for the public to come and meet the people that are involved in what the early draft is going to look like when it's done. That's going to come back to us for a second phase approach, and I encourage everyone to come. Last night we had about 50 to 60, Chad, I think it was, in Chester. The night before that we were in Hubbard's at ACES. Tonight we're at the Foresight School at 7. So again, and if you want to follow what's happening, go online to roomtomove.ca, roomtomove, all one, .ca, and updates are going to happen there, I believe, on a consistent step. And if you have questions, I'm going to look at Chad. They can call the recreation office, of course, at 3490, I think it is the number. So, yeah, and there's a survey. Please go online and fill out a survey, because if you want to be heard, there are opportunities. We always get accused that we don't say enough. Well, we are saying enough, and we're giving you opportunities to have lots to say. So please do it. Thank you very much, Warden Weber.
Great, thank you.
I'll just comment on the survey. You don't need to do it online. I have gotten
Paper copies.
paper copies here because I know they want to do it at Bonnie Lee Farm, the participants. So the rec department will make copies available for people that would prefer to do it in paper as opposed to online. Because I know certainly many people don't want to do it online or can't access that.
Okay, so that's it for the council business. Now, we do have an in-camera session, but unless we can complete it in 15 minutes,
Yeah, then we have a meeting after that as well.
well,
so
I
we have
know,
to-
but
Yeah,
that's what I
we'll
mean.
probably go off the live stream, and then if there's anything, we'll post any motions that come out of the in-camera afterwards.
But I'm just
We
wondering
have
whether
time.
we should do the in-camera before, or if we can finish it in 15 minutes for the next meeting.
Well, why don't we just go in camera and what we can finish?
What we can finish,
Oh,
yeah. what we
okay.
can finish.
Okay, motion to go in camera.
Motion to go in camera.
Seconder. Discussion, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried.